Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. And today's video is going to be the third part for my YouTube series in which we talk all about printing digital papers for scrapbooks or mini albums. So if you haven't watched them yet, then definitely make sure to watch the first two parts in which I gave you all my tips on how to choose a printer and actually showed you which printer I chose for printing my digital papers. I also showed you how I easily prepare my papers for printing using Canva and a digital mini album tool I created myself. And you could also see the results of my testing of a lot of different paper types, and then of course after showing you all the results I gave you my recommendations for the best papers to use and also told you the different prices. As said in those last parts, having a good printer along with a very good paper does not guarantee you good printing results. Because it is also very important to use correct settings for your printing, and especially for the colors of your prints, this can make a big difference. So you could use different settings for the same paper and get different print results. But you could also go with the same settings for different paper types, and then you will notice that your prints as well don't look the same. So in today's video we talk all about settings, and even if you are already printing digital papers for a while now, there might be some information for you to get better results with your prints. So let's have a look at all the important settings for printing digital papers. And to show you the basic settings, I will actually show you how I set up my printer for printing on the Canon original matte photo paper. Because as I said, the settings have to change depending on the media type you're using, but that's something we will cover in this video. And I'm using an Apple MacBook Pro, so the settings of course might look different to you if you're working on another device, and they can also, I think, look a little different when you're using a different printer. But overall, you should be able to find all the different settings I'm talking about right now. So first off, you of course have to choose the printer you want to use. So in case you have more than just one printer, so that's what you choose first. And then I will just show you all the settings with the default settings, but you could also work with presets, which I will mention later on in this video as well. And then, yeah, copies, it's just one copy, of course, for this paper. And then, yeah, how many pages? All pages. I'm just printing one page here. Yeah, but these settings are pretty basic, so I'm not going into too much details here. But then the next one, which is pretty important, is the size of your paper. And as you can see, by default, it's now set to US letter. It might be different for you once you open your printing settings. But whatever it is, you want to make sure that you change that to the size of the file. So I of course work with my digital mini album planner in Canva, and I'm using an A3 template most of the time. So I want to make sure that I have now exactly the same size. So I have to choose A3 for my paper size so that it matches the size I created this file in. And then I can make sure that all these different pattern papers are also in the correct size. So as you can see, I have some different pattern papers on my sheet here, and the one on top in the top left corner, for example, is supposed to be in 6 by 6 inches. And if you're looking at the settings for scale here, then you can also see that it's now scaled down to 64% so that this A3 file fits onto the US letter size, which is currently set up. And you of course want to make sure that you print in 100% so that you have the original sizes for then, as I said, getting the correct paper sizes of your papers. So I'm changing it to A3 size here. And A3 is one of the many sizes already in my printing settings here. But as you can see now, it's still not 100%, but 98%. And the reason for that is that I actually used inch settings in Canva so that it would be easier for me to double check if my 6 by 6 inch paper is really 6 by 6 inches, because I always work with inches instead of centimeters. But then A3, the papers I'm getting here is set up in centimeters. So I actually did a custom
the size, and I just named it A3 in inches, and this just makes a little difference so that you now can see that when I go to my custom A3 in inch paper size, that it's now 100% scaled.
So now I can be sure that after printing my paper here, I have all my different sized pen and papers on here in exactly the sizes I need them to be in for making my albums. And I can't mention it enough, but I absolutely love how it works with my digital mini album planner and printing my papers and having the correct sizes for all my different elements in my interactive mini albums. It is so convenient to just print out this paper in A3 and then just cut down all the different papers without actually having to measure them and being sure that they are in the sizes I need them to be in. And in case you want to print on another paper size which is not already installed in the default settings here, you can just add it to your sizes by clicking on this little plus icon, and then you can just type in all your different measurements. So I have millimeters here, you might have inches, and then you can just add it and use it every time you want to print on this paper size.
Now the next options I have are for the layout and the paper handling, but again, there's nothing I really change here, so I will not go into detail of all these different settings. But then printer options is very important, and I will just start by showing you what you need to set up first, and this is for quality and media.
And as said, I will show you the settings for printing on the original Canon matte photo paper.
Because all the media types are actually installed with the software for your printer. So for the Canon printer, I have some options here for the media type, and most of them are photo paper options, and all these different photo paper options are supposed to work very well with Canon photo papers. So I'm choosing the matte photo paper here, of course, and then after choosing the media type, I also want to choose the print quality, and I'm always going with high quality.
And I just want to quickly mention here, even though it doesn't apply to the photo papers, that sometimes I wasn't able to choose high print quality with other media types. And this was the case for me when actually choosing A3 with the borderless option for my print size. So then I was no longer able to go with plain paper for the media type, and I will talk about this media type in this video as well, and then choosing high quality. So yeah, always make sure that you can actually choose high quality, because for me, when that happens, I didn't notice because I thought, okay, last used settings, I had it in high quality and it didn't double check. And then, yeah, the print turned out very bad compared to the previous print. And it took me some time to actually find the issue with the borderless printing. So yeah, but for photo paper, you're totally fine to also print borderless.
You can also find the option of grayscale printing here, so that means printing in black and white if you tick this checkbox here, but that's of course nothing we want to do. We want our papers to be colorful. Now, the next settings I want to talk about are actually the settings I struggled with the most, and I had no idea that this even exists and what it means. So you now want to set up the color matching. And as you can see, you have two options here. You can choose between ColorSync and Canon Color Matching. And if you want to print your papers on Canon matte photo paper, on the original paper, and you're working with your Canon printer, then you're totally fine to just choose Canon Color Matching. And I will of course talk more about the differences, but again, as I said, for now we are totally fine with going with Canon Color Matching because we already let our printer know that we want to print on an original Canon photo paper in high quality. So that's already set up with the quality and media options.
The next settings you could change are color options, but if I'm working with the original Canon matte photo paper, I'm not touching this at all, but later on in this video we will have to go back to it.
Now, after making all these changes to the default settings, you can actually save these as a preset. And this just makes it easier for you that next time you can just use the preset and you don't have to make these changes again. So you can just give it a name. I just call it Canon Matte Photo Paper on A3. And then as you can see, as I change to this preset, it is now already like set to A3 in inch size, and then you can see the scaling is 100%, which we want to have. And then for the color matching, we have Canon Color matching, and then for the media, matte photo paper and high quality.
Now let's have a look why color settings can make a big difference. So if you're looking at those two prints, then you can definitely see that the colors are different. However, they are both printed with the exact same settings, but one of them is printed on photo paper and the other one on copy paper. Now, to give you another example, with those two prints, I have used the same media type but changed the settings. So this means that you cannot expect the color representation to be the same on every media type, but instead you have to use the correct settings, which mainly means using the correct profile for your media type and printer combination. Now I know it sounds very technical here, so let's get into what an ICC profile actually is. Because if you're like me, then you probably have never heard of it before. So that was definitely the case for me. And I really had to do a lot of research, and there might be still some wrong information here, but I try my best to just let you know what I figured out. So ICC profiles are very essential for matching the colors between the digital files you're using and your printed output. And that was one of the criteria I wanted to match my prints, and this is like the accurate color matching. And I had no idea that this depends on using these profiles, and these profiles are actually ensuring accurate color reproduction for a specific combination of the printer and the paper and the ink you're using. So the way I understand this is it's basically like a file which holds all the data for letting the printer know basically how to reproduce the colors for a specific media type. Which means that you need to have a correct ICC profile for every printer and media type combination. And as I already showed you in the settings, you have two options for color matching, and one of them is Canon Color Matching, and then the other option is ColorSync. And Canon Color Matching is basically driver based, so that means it's the printer color matching. So when working with Canon Color Matching, you are actually using built-in ICC profiles. And these profiles actually come with the software for your printer, which you have downloaded and installed to your device. And of course, these pre-installed ICC profiles are intended to be used with original Canon media. And that's the reason for why you're getting amazing results when using Canon media with your Canon printer. So you simply have to choose the correct media type, and that's what we did when I showed you the settings with my matte photo paper. I just had to go to matte photo paper, and then I chose Canon Color Matching, and then my printer knows to use the correct ICC profile for the matte photo paper. And while it works very well with the original Canon papers, it might not be the perfect solution when working with third-party medias. Let's talk about option number 1 for color matching, which is ColorSync. This is now application managed, so it is actually managed by the device you're working on. So in my case, it would be my MacBook Pro. And that also means that ColorSync is just the name for the color managed system by Apple. And then, for example, if you're working on a Windows device, then it would be called the Windows Color System. And then the same as for the Canon Color Matching, you also have some pre-installed ICC profiles on your device, but these are very generic profiles. So profiles like generic RGB profile, for example, but then of course you don't have profiles installed to your device for every printer and media combination. So using ColorSync means that you can use custom ICC profiles, which can work really well with third-party media, but of course you have to either get them from somewhere or make them yourself. So let's go through all the options you have for color matching when working with third-party medias. And the first option would be to check if the paper company actually offers an ICC profile for your printer to download. But keep in mind, they would have to offer a lot of different profiles for all the different printers, or at least for the different printer brands. So I'm not quite sure, like it might be that even if you're getting a profile for a different printer by Canon, that it works with the model you own, but it could also be that it really depends on the model you have, so I'm not quite sure about that. And to be honest, I have to say that I wasn't able to find any profiles pre-made for the papers I liked when testing my different paper types. But other paper companies definitely do that, so it's worth to check for the paper you choose to work with. And I'm actually really wondering why not more companies are offering this service, because yeah, it is really something which can lead to a much better quality on their papers. The next option would be to actually try out the Canon color matching with the closest media type pre-installed with your printer. And this is definitely something I would recommend you to do if you can't find the correct ICC profile by the paper brand. So I will show you how to do that in the settings for a regular copy paper. In my case, it is for the color copy paper or for the Clairefontaine copy paper, which are two of the coded copy papers I recommended in the last part of this series. So you would just have to go to your print settings and then of course set up the size and everything. And then you can go to quality and media, and here you want to choose the closest media type. So we are not printing on a photo paper, so let's see what other options we have. And the first one I notice is right on the top, and this says plain paper. So that's what I'm choosing, and then I simply have to go with Canon color matching. So now I want the ICC profile stored for plain paper, and to be honest, I don't really know what this profile is for, because as far as I know, Canon is not selling like regular copy paper. I'm not sure, but I know they have a lot of different photo papers, so don't really know what this plain paper option here is for. But let's have a look at the results I got. And this is actually the same print I showed you before. So at first, again, I had no idea about these ICC profiles, so I would just print it with this setting. And I actually would think that it looks fine. I also like the colors and I didn't see any issue with it. But then with all the test prints on the other medias, I of course noticed that the colors are very different depending on which media type I use. And you can definitely see that when comparing the color copy print with the original EcoPark paper print. But it definitely isn't that noticeable that I would have said immediately, oh, there's something wrong with the colors. So that's why I didn't see an issue first. But it really depends on the colors you're printing. So with other collections, it might be more obvious if you're comparing the printed paper to the original paper. So if we are looking at those two prints, then I would say that you definitely can see the difference in the rocket especially. So on the left, on the original EcoPark paper, it has like a green tint to it. And then on the right side, I would say it is pretty like bluish. So yeah, with those two papers in the comparison, I would say you can notice that there is a difference with the colors. Now I need to tell you that actually just yesterday, when editing this video, I noticed that there is another option for a media type which might work well with my copy paper, and I just haven't seen it before. And I really don't know how I didn't see it during my whole testing process, and I wish I have tried it before, but yeah. So now I can show you that you can also find the option for high resolution paper when scrolling down to other papers. And I didn't really know what high resolution paper means or what it is referring to, but when I looked it up, I saw that Canon is actually selling high resolution paper, so this is what it is called, and this is a paper with a coating to it. And then when I look up plain paper, then I don't really find papers by Canon, but it seems that plain paper is referring to regular copy paper by all different brands, but without a coating. So this might be the difference, which also makes a big difference with the results, which I will show you right now. So with the plain paper option, I definitely got brighter and lighter colors compared to the original Eco-Payak paper, as well as what the colors look like on my screen. And then with the high resolution paper option, I would say the colors are definitely more accurate. And again, I think with these two journaling cards, it's even better to tell because you have the very light and bluish colors on the left and then the new high resolution paper option on the right side. And this is also more accurate if you compare it to the colors on the screen and the original paper. Now, that doesn't mean that the colors are completely accurate and that this is like the perfect ICC profile for the non-original color copy paper I want to use. But it's definitely the closest match I can get with Canon color matching and these pre-installed ICC profiles by Canon. Now, if you have watched my previous part for this series, then you know that there is another paper, not by Canon, which I really love using. And this is the Koala Matte Photo Paper, and I of course for testing also went with color matching and the closest media type, which is the Canon Matte Photo Paper. And comparing the Canon photo paper to the Koala photo paper, I felt like the colors are really quite similar, but I think you can actually see it on your screen now that the Koala photo paper on the right side here does have a slightly like blue tint to it. And that's definitely, again, something which was more noticeable to me when doing other prints. But it is a very close match, and I think that's because the Koala photo paper and Canon photo paper are very similar. So they feel very similar, especially because I chose the same weight for the Koala photo paper. That might have something to do with it as well. And also they have the same structure, so the same coating. So it seems like they're so similar that this ICC profile made for the Canon photo paper also works quite well with the Koala photo paper. So yeah, trying out Canon color matching with the closest media type is definitely a great option for you if you want to work with third-party medias. Now, the next option, which I would actually suggest you to do after going with the closest media type and Canon color matching, is to adjust the colors manually in the print settings. So I'm doing that for the Koala photo paper. So I've already chosen matte photo paper for the media type and high quality, and then Canon color matching, as I said, for the color matching. And now we have to go to color options, which I showed you before in this video. And here you can actually adjust the colors manually. But I definitely don't want to claim that I'm very good at it. So I'm not really good with like color theory and everything. So yeah, for me, it was just trying it out and seeing what the results look like. And as I said, with the Koala photo paper, I still have this like blue tint I don't really like because that doesn't seem accurate to the digital colors. So yeah, the first thing I did is I reduced serum. I don't really know how to pronounce that. And I actually just do it in steps of 5. So I don't want to do like so much at a time because yeah, it is easier to just do -5 first and then have a look at the test results and maybe add more here. And then I also actually added more yellow because apparently more yellow means less blue. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, but yeah, it is just from what I saw with my prints is that I really have to reduce the blue tint. And you can actually see the changes in the sample type image here on the left. I really wish it would be the original paper you want to print. But as said, I would just print a couple of test prints, and then every time I looked at the results, I would adjust it even more. And then at the end, these are the adjustments I came up with. And I actually already saved them to my preset. So now I have the Koala photo paper preset, including the Canon color matching with the matte photo paper, and then all the different manual adjustments for the colors. So feel free to note these numbers down and give them a try if you're also working with the Koala photo paper. But also, if you have any improvements to these adjustments, then please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to try them out as well. But with all the different prints I did after making these adjustments, I have to say I'm quite happy with the results. So I was definitely able to reduce the blue tint a little, because it definitely looks more accurate to the original EcoPack paper or other papers I tried out, as well as to what the colors look like on my screen. And I could especially see that with these two prints. So with the photos, I noticed this blue tint as well. And then with the new settings, I think it looks much more like it is supposed to look. Another option would be to try out the pre-installed ColorSync profiles, but these are more like generic profiles. So the profiles already installed to your device, and you have profiles like RGB generic profile, and there might be some like uncoated paper profiles. And I actually did give some of them a try, but they weren't great with the colors at all. And I didn't try them all. So I won't show you the results, but I do want to show you how to find these profiles in your print settings. And this is not only for the pre-installed profiles on your device, but also for profiles which you might got from the paper company, as I said, for option number 1. So yeah, you would have to install it to your device, and then you would also find it here in your settings. So in your settings, you again have to go to color matching and then choose ColorSync instead. And then you have automatic or other profiles. And if you click on other profiles, you can find all the profiles, as I said, either pre-installed to your device or downloaded by you from the paper company or from somewhere else online and installed by yourself. Another option which could actually turn out to be a great possibility is to have a company create a custom ICC profile for you. And I, for example, found a company in Germany where I would have to pay around $20 to $60, depending on how many colors I want them to include for actually creating this profile. For this to work, you just have to print out a test sheet by the company, and this test sheet has a lot of like different color patches on there, and then you send it in to the company so that they can see the paper you're using and the colors on the sheet, and they can do all the like calibration and create your ICC profile. But you have to keep in mind that you're only getting one ICC profile for one paper, printer, and ink combination. But it might be totally worth it if you found a printer and a paper you like and you know that you're going to use it for a long time. Then it might be better to actually get this ICC custom profile than using the much more expensive medias by the printer company. And I have to say that I definitely consider doing that for the color copy paper and maybe even for the koala paper. But so far I wasn't really sure and I was still in the testing process. So yeah, I didn't do that yet, but it's probably the best option if you really want to get the perfect ICC profile for your printer and media combination. Now, the last option would be to actually create your own ICC profiles, and you can use a profiling package for that. So you would need to buy a device for scanning the colors and everything, and this is quite expensive. So I cannot really tell you because I didn't look too much into it.
for the prices, because I just saw that it's way too much and something you would only need if you're really like professional about it. So yeah, for me it is way too expensive. But then I also found a software for which you wouldn't need another device. You only would need a phone or a camera, and the possibility to actually export or take your photos in RAW format. And the software is called ColorSync, and I will actually link it in the description box down below, because you can really try it out first before purchasing anything. And I did give it a try with the color copy paper, and I definitely saw better results for the colors with my test print. And then I just purchased it, and I actually thought I could get even better results, but I didn't quite achieve that yet. So I'm still not completely happy with my new ICC profile for the color copy paper. And this might be because I actually don't have the right phone or camera to use the RAW format. So my iPhone I'm using is actually too new of a model to work with this software, so I hope this gets updated soon, and then I would be able to get a better result even. But what I like about this software is that it was 69 euros and I can use it for as many ICC profiles I want to create. And as said, I definitely got better results making this new ICC profile using the software. If I compare it to the plain paper option I used for my first test prints with the Canon Color matching. But then, as said, just yesterday I found this other Canon Color matching option, which is the high resolution paper media type. And now I wouldn't say that I got better results with the new profile I created with the software compared to just using the high resolution paper option. So yeah, so far it was not really worth it for me to buy this software, but I think it's a very good software. And if you are using the photo formats they actually suggest to use, it might work even better. So I just had no time to try it again, but I will definitely do that in the future, because as I said, I now have this software and I can use it for every paper and printer combination. Now, after spending the last 20 minutes talking all about colors, I really want to remind you that it might not even matter that much. Well, I definitely do think that it's very important to know all these differences and also know these settings for the colors, so that you can try for the best results you can get for your prints by either looking up if the paper company has an ICC profile for you, or if you can go with the closest media type and are already satisfied with the colors. But then if you're not fully happy with the results, you of course can try the other options I mentioned, like getting your profile from a company, or creating your own profile using this software or a calibration kit. But to be honest, you might not even be able to notice that the colors are not completely accurate. Because usually you wouldn't compare your prints with the physical collection, so with the original brand's papers. That's something I solely did just for making this video. I actually made my whole Alice in Wonderland album printing my papers on the color copy paper, only using the Canon color matching color system, and then the ICC profile, which was already installed for the plain paper in high quality. So I wasn't even using the much better option, which is the high resolution paper media type and color matching, as said, because I just figured that out yesterday. And I was totally fine with the colors when I made my album, because I also didn't compare them to the original ones. It might be different if you want to use a digital collection but also mix in some papers from the physical collection. If you do have some of those, then you might be able to tell the differences in the colors. But for me, it was actually fine working with this profile and this paper. And you also have to keep in mind that comparing your printed papers with what the papers look like on the screen is also not the best way of comparison, because yeah, the screen and the brightness and everything, it definitely looks different on a device than printed out, even if you were to use the perfect ICC profile. So as said, I was totally fine with this Alice album, and I'm currently working on a new album using the Simple Stories Boho Baby collection, printing all my papers and elements on the Koala matte photo paper. And for most of the papers, I was just using the Canon color matching option with the matte photo paper without actually doing these manual color adjustments, because yeah, when I started this album, I wasn't really playing around with these adjustments. And I definitely did notice the blue tint, but also it didn't bother me that much, and I'm still happy with how the album turned out. So let me just give you a little sneak peek of this album, but there will be a project share pretty soon. But now that I know that with the color adjustments I can actually reduce this blue tint, I'm super excited for my next album using the Koala photo paper. So with that being said, I think we can now stop talking about colors and worrying about colors. But I really hope that you got a lot of new information from it, and that you now know how to set up your printer for printing digital papers so that you get the best possible results. And now there's only one part left for this YouTube series. And in this next and final part, we will talk about all the costs for printing. So in the last part, I already told you the prices for all the different papers I tested and liked using, but you are probably wondering which costs you have to add for all the ink you're using when printing your digital papers. So what I did is I actually used up a whole ink set while noting down how many papers I could print with this ink set. So in the next video, I'm going to tell you the costs per sheet, and then we can more accurately compare that to the costs of physical paper collections. And what I found might surprise you, because it definitely did surprise me. And I will also give you some ink saving tips, so definitely make sure to watch this last and final part. And as always, if you enjoyed watching today's video, I would really love to get your feedback in the comments down below. Also, make sure to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching. And then, of course, I would love to see you in my next video. Bye!